All right, welcome back to Save America Vote Tulsi Gabbard. I'm Dave, and thanks for subscribing. I think we went over 3,000 today, which is just crazy. I remember when I was trying to get the channel up to 1,000. I'm not begging for subscribers because it's one of those things where it's hard to fathom that so many people are watching these videos, but I appreciate it, and I guess we're all in this together. As you can see, I have a video from the PBS News Hour with is it Judy Woodruff? Is that her name? She's been in broadcasting way too long, I can tell you that. And she is about as neoliberal as they get. And she's already been asking Tulsi Gabbard about why she's running for president. She inferred in one of her questions that, being the president to be commander-in-chief rather than being all the different facets of being president is, it's almost questionable. Her motivation, Tulsi's motivation, is just to be commander-in-chief, and that's not what she said. But in any event, I didn't want to play this whole interview because it's a little tedious. I want to focus where this picks up, and it picks up in the usual place.
Dramatic way to de-escalate these tensions that we have.
Let me ask you about Syria. You were criticized by a number of Democrats 2 years ago when you met with Syria's President Bashar al-Assad. As you know, he is seen as a brutal dictator.
He is seen as a brutal dictator. And you got criticism, and it's the only thing they ask Tulsi Gabbard about. Because Tulsi stuck her neck out there and figured, you know what? I'm going to go see what this guy really is about. I'm going to see for myself. Maybe she didn't believe the intelligence. Maybe she wanted to know what the guy really truly thinks. So she went on a fact-finding mission. By the way, it's something that members of Congress have done plenty of times over the years to find out for themselves.
Seeing the torture, the killing of hundreds of thousands of civilians in that country. If you're elected president, would you sit down with Bashar al-Assad again? What do you think it would accomplish?
I think it's important.
Would you do this again? You did it once, and oh my gosh, I can't imagine that you'd actually do this again. I mean, what's your motivation? What would it accomplish? Because, we're supposed to have all these preconditions. We're supposed to have all these sanctions going on. And then we go meet with somebody who we've twisted their arm behind their back to the point where they'll tell us anything we want to hear. Much like torture, So anyway, let's hear Tulsi speak to this neo-lib and her question, which isn't original. It isn't thoughtful, and it will shed absolutely no or new light on Tulsi Gabbard's run for the presidency.
For the sake of our country's national security, to keep the American people safe, and the pursuit of peace, for our president.
Oh my goodness, peace!
To meet with leaders of other countries, whether they be adversaries or potential adversaries, in order to achieve that peace and security. I think it's important now for Trump to meet with the Iranian president so that we don't face this situation as we are now, where we are walking dangerously closer and closer to war with Iran. Unless we are serious and have the courage to hold these conversations and have these meetings, the only alternative is war.
Russia. Would you be tougher on Russia than this administration or not? You've talked about the importance of avoiding any sort of nuclear confrontation.
Notice there aren't any domestic policy questions. As if Tulsi Gabbard doesn't stand for a living wage. She doesn't believe in Medicare for all. These are economic questions that would certainly get the attention of the viewers over here on PBS. Okay? It's PBS for a reason, all right? I'm trying to think what acronym or what we can come up with for what PBS stands for. But we know what the BS in PBS stands for. She just stays on the foreign policy, Now we're going to talk about Russia. Would you be tougher on Russia? You know what? Tulsi Gabbard probably wouldn't be tougher on Russia, not because she works for Vladimir Putin, but because Trump is being needlessly tough on Russia, because all you losers in the media are making him out to be Putin's puppet. And obviously, if you read the Daily Beast, Tulsi and you and I, we're right there with Trump and everybody else who wants to get along with Putin. That's just the way things have worked out.
With Russia, which obviously everybody wants, but what would you do differently?
Well, as we look at this threat of nuclear war and a nuclear catastrophe, nuclear strategists say we are closer to potential of a nuclear war now than ever.
2 minutes to midnight.
It's important for us to make sure that we are de-escalating tensions with nuclear-armed countries like Russia and China and build those relationships that are based more on cooperation rather than conflict, deal with the issues that we have, but also recognize in situations like North Korea and our goal of denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula, it is in our best interest to be able to work with countries like Russia and China to achieve that goal.
Quickly, let me ask you about the Mueller report. You have said, in essence,
and of course, let me ask you about our ongoing conspiracy here in the mainstream media, including us MIC-funded folks over here at PBS. What do you think about this conspiracy? We did a great job concocting it. Aren't you interested in it at all? Can you give us your answer, please?
But you think the Democrats need to move on, there was no collusion proven, and in terms of obstruction of justice, we're now learning that people representing President Trump, Congress, contacted Michael Flynn, who was advising the president, to try to...
Isn't the Flynn thing really old? Wasn't that at the very beginning? And didn't Flynn, take the fall for that already? Again, no conversation. She's got opportunities to ask questions about health care and jobs and education and the environment. Nothing at all.
To affect his cooperation with investigators. Are you confident that there was no attempt at obstruction of justice by President
No, not
Trump?
at all. And I've never said that. My statements and my point has been my support for the Mueller investigation was to investigate.
See, these people moved the goalposts. They didn't find collusion, so that they're on obstruction. And again, the obstruction would be against something that didn't happen because they admitted it didn't happen. So it's kind of like somebody's coming into your house to investigate you, and you've done nothing wrong, and the person doing the investigating coming into your house has already told you you've done nothing wrong. So you say, you know what, why don't you get out of my house? Why don't you get out? I didn't do anything, and you told me I didn't do anything wrong, so why are you still here? And this is where we're at right now. Now, I'm not saying that I believe, Trump isn't paranoid or Trump overreacted to some things, because obviously he did. He seemed to be angry. But again, think of it. Somebody is in your house and you've already told them that they haven't done anything wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. But they're going to hang around for a while.
Whether or not the president of our country colluded with Russia, colluded with a foreign country. The Mueller report came out and said that there was no evidence that that collusion took place. I think it's important for us. Congress will exercise its oversight over the president, the administration.
But obstruction of justice.
On obstruction and other issues
Obstruction.
that are being raised. But I'll tell you, out on the road, as I'm meeting with people in different states and different communities,
Here we
they're
go.
not talking about the Mueller report.
Right.
They're not talking about what's happening in Washington. What they're saying is, why aren't you guys focused on bringing us quality health care, on bringing us quality education, dealing with the crumbling infrastructure that's threatening so many people in this country?
And speaking of that, we looked today at your website, Running for President, and you've been in the...
Okay, it's just one kind of jab after another. So this is, just to give you a little heads up, Tulsi's website, it doesn't really spell out a lot of policy positions. However, if you go to tulsigabbard.org, which You can also link to this channel from that website, so that's kind of a humbling thing. You can find out a lot more about Tulsi Gabbard and where she stands on everything. And by the way, Tulsi Gabbard is legislating by the day. Okay, so you know what she is all about. You know what she stands for because she's constantly writing bills. Okay, she's constantly submitting ideas for the Congress to vote on and pass. And once those bills get passed, they would make the country better. They're good ideas, and it's not just... She is the last person in this election cycle who speaks in platitudes. She speaks very candidly and clearly about issues. So anyway, well, we went to your website and we couldn't find anything about you, and we didn't want to sit through, you know, like one of your campaign rallies because you're going to talk all that anti-war stuff that we don't like.
Campaign since January. There is no place on your website that talks about the issues. It talks about your positions on the issues. Just curious about why that is.
There's a website, tulsigabbard.org, that people can go and look at and see my history on a number of issues. And on my presidential campaign, we're working on rolling out my vision for where I will take this country on a whole host of issues, both related to domestic and foreign policy that we'll be rolling out in the future.
But just quickly back again on the Mueller report, do you think
Okay, so you answered the question. Tulsi answered the question. She didn't take like 20 minutes like a lot of these politicians that circle around and use some really great platitudes and talk in riddles and so forth. She answered the question. So you circle back around to Mueller again. These people have, I mean, they do. Now they have Trump derangement syndrome, Mueller derangement syndrome, obstruction of justice derangement syndrome. And look, again, I'm like Tulsi. You know, if you can impeach him, go ahead and impeach him, but it's gonna backfire because it will never go through the Senate. Okay? And the country will be ground to a halt during all of this. And by the way, Trump is still the president during all of these proceedings and all of these things leading up to it, and he'll still be president at the end of the day because, again, you're not going to get a conviction in the Senate. It'll be very similar to what happened to Bill Clinton.
to drop its investigations, its attempts to learn more about what was in the Mueller report?
Okay, so here's an awkward moment, and look at Tulsi's face. She came back and asked the same question again. So, do you think they should drop? Do you think? And she's already answered that. She already said, no, I don't think you should drop the investigation. I didn't say that. I said that, see, these people are stupid. They're just stupid. They can't divide, they can't put the compartment over here which says no collusion and not have that connected to this so-called obstruction of justice. It's all one thing, and she felt compelled to again loop around because she's a corporate shill, and even though she works for PBS is a corporation. It's called the Corporation for Public Broadcasting for a reason. It's a corporation. Everybody thinks it's just like everybody who no, they get these huge grants now from these giant corporations, and many of them are tied to the oil industry, which of course is tied heavily to the military-industrial complex. But look at Tulsi's face. Like, I said no, and then I said no again, and she continues to ask. Let me see if I can just back this up just a fraction here. We're at 34:19. Let me try 12. Let's try this again. Let's watch this just play out.
Investigations, its attempts to learn more about what was in the Mueller report. I know. Leave it there.
No. As I say to my 5-year-old, no means no. Oh my. This is just such embarrassing. I'm going to leave Tulsi up. Like, she looks great right there. She's got a big old smile. I said no. You're still trying to ask me this as if I'm going to say, well, we need to drop. And she's doing this, though, I think, more or less, just to, like, get away from me, lady. I didn't get to talk about anything, really, other than some foreign policy stuff that you guys are all hyperventilating about. You know, Syria, Russia, the same old questions. And very little, you know, you could have asked her, Judy, instead of saying, you know, speaking of policies, you know, your website doesn't have a lot of stuff on it. Well, Judy, she's right here in studio with you. Maybe you want to ask her a few policy-oriented questions. But this is classic. This is just, I tell you, this is an uphill battle, people. This is a very uphill battle. By the way, I love YouTube has to tell us, using Wikipedia, that PBS is an American public broadcast service. Oh my, who gets tons and tons of money directly from the military-industrial complex. It wasn't like Exxon or Exxon Mobil. They give money to all of these PBS stations now because nobody wants to fund them, because they're rich as it is. They don't need fundraisers anymore from us. So, anyway, another fun interview. Tulsi Gabbard and Judy Woodruff, who really should retire. Because she's a mothball at this point. She just needs to go. All right, I'm done. No means no.